All righty, we are back, baby, and we promised you time for the Acura of Pembroke Pines, Miami Heat, and NBA report. And of course, the great Ira Winderman will be joining us all year long doing this twice a week, which is a beautiful thing. Let me get this overlay here. I think I got rid of it. Okay, there we go. All right, good stuff there. We were hiding the Acura logo on the left side. Ira.
Can't do that. Got to pay the bills, Big O.
Damn right, bro. Damn right. Good morning, sir. How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing good. And as you know, Owen, you tell all our listeners and our viewers out there on the YouTube channel, free agency never stops. Just came out. Andre Iguodala left the Miami Heat. As expected, sort of, went back to the Golden State Warriors. So right now, and if people are watching me on YouTube, I'm actually updating my free agent list. Right now, when you look at the situation, the Heat have only 2 remaining unsigned free agents. Udonis Haslem, we all expect to get done with the Heat, and Summer League super sensation Omar Yurtseven. So obviously the trail moves very quick on free agency, but now we have Andre Iguodala back to the Golden State Warriors.
Okay. All right. Good stuff there. Let's first address what the latest addition, Victor Oladipo. Oladipo obviously turned down a couple of different contracts in the past that would have set him up a little bit. He took a chance on himself. It did not work out, did not have the money out there. So Miami was able to bring him back in an incredibly reasonable contract in a no risk, incredibly high reward deal, right? I mean, that's just kind of the way we got to look at it. Talk to us a little bit how all of that broke down.
You know what? This is a case where a player probably thought he could do a little more and get a little bit more because, the one thing you know about athletes, you've dealt with them for decades. They always believe confidently they'll come back from injury and they're worth more than whatever anyone seems to want to pay them. I think this hit Victor Oladipo hard. He changed his agent during this process. He was expecting to get a reasonable contract, and instead, basically the entire league, including the Heat Big O, said, prove it to us, Victor Oladipo. Go out there after your quadricep surgery. We don't expect you until at least the second half of the season, but show us you are what you could be. And by re-signing with the Heat, and this is important, they keep his bird rights. In other words, even after playing this year for about $2.4 million in salary, $1.7 million against the salary cap, even with all of that, if he has a Victor Oladipo type season, he can re-sign with the Heat again next year for $20 million, $25 million, $30 million. Show us what you're worth. If he went to another team, they would not have had his bird rights. They either would have had to use cap space, which, as we all know, goes very quickly in this league, or give him another minimum deal. So I'm not necessarily going to say that Victor Oladipo jumped just because he wanted to be back with the Heat. I think, number one, he read the market. Number two, he knows this is his quickest pathway back to an elite salary. Now show them. And I think you'd agree with this. If Victor Oladipo gets back to being anything close to what Victor Oladipo was, it's a grand slam of a signing. Because next year in the playoffs, if you're going in with Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry and Victor Oladipo, I'd like their chances against almost anyone.
I got to tell you, Ira, there's a selfish part of me, right, would be really cruel to Oladipo, but even if he's ready to come back in November or December, I'd almost keep his ass out to like March and play him for a month and a half before the playoffs start so he can get acclimated, you can get him in the groove and all that stuff. And then, because if he can come back in December, it's such a long period of time and he's been so injury prone. I'd almost want to save him just to take my shot with him more at the back end of the season than anything else. How do you think they'll handle this whole thing with Oladipo? Because he has been so injury prone. I would imagine you want to handle this with kid gloves as much as possible.
From the people I've been speaking to through this process, I do not expect him back for the first half of the season. So that's mid-January, probably a little bit later than that. But you know this because you've had to deal with this with your callers and your texters for years. The Heat are uber cautious with injuries. So many times people will text you, get you on your text line there. They'll talk to you on the phone and they'll say, what's Riley doing? Or this guy's a gold bricker and he's not coming back and he's just collecting the cash. No, this is a team that wants you right. Because if they have you, they want you to be a Miami Heat player, defending the full court, playing hard in your minutes, being who you are. So I don't think there's any chance he comes back in the first half of the season. And I think then you and I, as we do our twice weekly Acura Pembroke Pines reports, we'll be talking every week. What do you think about Vic? I'm going to tell you he's not coming back. You're going to go, come on, Ira, it's been months since he signed. I think that's how it's going to play out, and it doesn't matter to me. Two things here, O. One, I think you would agree with what the Heat have done in free agency, they have enough to make the playoffs. Top six, non-play-in. You'd agree with that, right? Number two,
they have to stay healthy. Yes.
And number two, it's always all about the playoffs for the Heat anyway. Always has been. Last year was a crappy season. They didn't win a playoff game. I don't care what they did in the regular season. 2 years ago, fantastic season. They went to the NBA Finals. So if you can get these guys back in the playoffs, I'll ask you this question. Tell me one team in the Eastern Conference that wants to go into a tie game, 10 seconds to go, and the Heat on the floor defensively have Bam Adebayo, PJ Tucker, Victor Oladipo, Kyle Lowry, and Jimmy Butler. Go ahead, Coach O. Design your play for that.
Yeah, no, you don't want to face that. You're going to face a bunch of junkyard dogs here. You know what I mean? Now, the question I would spin off of you of that is, can this philosophy actually play out for them and they can make a deep run in the playoffs because they're older, they're not as explosive as some teams offensively, but they can play defense. So it's almost like you've got to play 90s basketball, but you've got to figure out a way to score more points in this league because the math says 3 beats 2. So do you feel that Miami has the kind of players that can actually get something like that done with the philosophy that it looks like they're going to approach this with?
Modern NBA math, I agree, Big O, is 3 beats 2. But you know what's still some pretty good math also? 2 beats 0. So there's also that. So if you get your points and the other team doesn't, you still score 2 more points per possession for each team. You play that way. Look, it's going to be a slog. You are going to come on the Big O show every day following games and going, well, Heat fans, that was a rough one, but it was another W. I think we're going to see a lot of that. I think we're going to talk about, another 86-84 victory for the Heat. They now go 10 games over 500.
I don't mind. If you win, I don't care.
Right. You might be turning to your wife and saying, wow, this is tough to watch. But you know what? You know what's not tough to watch? The standings when you're producing victories, if you have to play that way. You know what wasn't tough for New York Knicks fans to watch? When Riley was succeeding, with Oakley and with Mason and with Ewing and with even X-Man in New York and the players he had, or what Riley was doing upon Heat arrival with PJ Brown and Alonzo Mourning and Dan Marley and those players. If you enjoy gritty sports, if you enjoy your team going back to, and you mentioned this to us earlier in the week, being the hardest working, toughest minded, best conditioned team in the NBA, the Heat's going to have that. It's going to be all dogs, yet no one dogging it.
All right. Are they done? What do you think? Are they?
No.
Okay. What
they're going to add at least another point guard, because here's the deal. Oh, let's say Kyle Lowry, no offense, at 35, 36 has his usual injuries. Let's say he misses 10 games. Not a lot if they're finally going to play a full 82-game season. But then who starts? God bless Gabe Vincent and what he showed last year in emergency minutes, even in the bubble 2 years ago, and what he showed for the Nigerian national team. But I'm not so sure that's who you want to roll out for an extended period with Kyle Lowry out. So they are looking at veteran point guards. I personally suggested Avery Bradley. He knows the system. He's a good guy, but he does get injured a lot. But I think there's another veteran point guard out there that they are targeting. Could happen relatively soon, but I think you'll see at least one more veteran point guard on this roster.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because you don't want to put Tyler in that role either. On top of all
and that's an interesting one because they forced Tyler to be point guard at the start of last season. They went through that experiment. Look, they might go back to it because a year from now, the Heat are going to have the same Tyler Hero decision they had last year with Bam, extending that rookie scale contract. So they get a 1-year audition. So it's interesting, though. Do you audition him at point guard, thinking he might be one of your point guards of the future? Or do you say, let's cast Tyler Hero in the best possible role to fill his skill set, so then you will know?
Yeah, I'd have him shooting. You need shooting in this. Listen, he is one of the keys to this team having success because we just talked about they don't have enough scorers. They need to count on this kid to have instant offense this year. He must come off the bench with instant offense. If he doesn't, that's going to be a severe disappointment.
Yeah, they need that a lot.
I'd rather put him in that role because it comes naturally more to him. The point guard, that there's an adjustment for him there. He still has to think more. Whereas as a scorer, that's what comes naturally to him. That's who he is. So I hope he's motivated for it because Ira, it looks like, I mean, there's a red carpet rolled out for him that if he wants to become a scorer, he can become a sixth man of the year candidate.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, he has a chance this year to win the sixth man award. I totally agree with you. And you know what? If he goes that far, he has a chance to be most improved player also. So, just like we saw the growth curve with Bam Adebayo, remember, Bam Adebayo, 2017 first-round pick, Tyler Hero, 2019 first-round pick. So he's 2 years behind the developmental plan. These Kentucky guys tend to work out pretty well for the Heat. So, yes, this is a big, I don't want to say make or break season, but this could be an important season. And again, how interesting we're still talking Tyler Hero when half the world had him traded. Maybe even me.
Right. And I was going to follow up with that. Is he still on this roster, do you think, in the next couple of weeks here? Have you heard that anybody's inquired? Have you heard?
Oh, he's been inquired about for months. We know that at last year's deadline, Houston wanted to get him for Victor Oladipo. We know Toronto was interested for Kyle Lowry. That's one of the amazing things about free agency in the last 6 months, that the Heat have been able to acquire Kyle Lowry, Victor Oladipo, and PJ Tucker without giving up Duncan Robinson or Tyler Hero. When I think even you and I, when we were speaking on our various platforms, we're talking about you might have to give up one of them in order to get that veteran talent. So I will say this, Tyler Hero remains the Miami Heat's #1 trade chip. But if you want him, come to the table with something dynamic, because we've already seen he turned down Victor Oladipo for Tyler Hero, got him anyway. They turned down Kyle Lowry for Tyler Hero. They got him anyway. So you have to up your ante a little bit more. But let's not kid ourselves here. If Washington Wizards and Tommy Shepard are online too and calling about Bradley Beal, the Heat will send the car service probably with the Uber X and the better car, the Uber Black, and the better car to trade him. He's your #1 chip. If we're talking Lillard, if we're talking Beal, if we're talking someone like that, then not only is Tyler Hero not untouchable, but no one's untouchable.
Right. Okay. So one more thing about Tyler that I'm sure you probably did your homework already. Is there a trade you can come up with of a young point guard that can score, that might be on the bench right now, not getting the playing time, that could be part of a trade for Tyler, since Miami needs it so badly, but they need kind of a combo guy that can also score too, because if you're giving Tyler away, you need a scorer. Does that exist anywhere in the NBA?
It might, but I don't think so. And I don't think so for this reason. I don't think there's someone who's better than what Tyler Hero could be for you, #1. 2, is for you right now on a rookie scale contract. 3, whose future you control with either an option year or an extension. Right. So that has real value. So you know what? Let's throw some names out there. I threw out Avery Bradley. Let's throw out Jeff Teague as another name. Look, I don't love him, but he won a championship with the Milwaukee Bucks. The Celtics took a look at him last year. He's been around. So that kind of guy is free. That kind of guy is still on the free agent list. So you know what? I would rather, 1, see if Kyle Lowry stays healthy. 2, bring in another veteran minimum guy, protect you against the tax. Certainly have to protect against that hard cap right now. Look at names like that. And then you know what, if we get to December, January, February, we'll know 2 things. Is this mix good enough at point guard? 2, is Victor Oladipo on the verge back? Because you know what? He's another option at point guard. Matter of fact, if Victor Oladipo was healthy right now, I wouldn't even mention the need for a point guard, because for Victor Oladipo to get minutes on a team that already has Jimmy Butler and $19 million Duncan Robinson and $90 million, you're probably going to have to slot him at point guard or playmaker anyway. So I think you wait on Victor, you wait on Tyler, need be you look at trade deadline, unless Damian Lillard's on the phone or Bradley Beal's on the phone. It has to be, in my thoughts, Big O, at that level.
It's the Acura Pembroke Pines Miami Heat and NBA report with Ira Winderman. You can catch it here twice a week, so make sure you tune in, podcast, subscribe, so you can lock it in and you know when we drop it. Ira, I got to ask about Jimmy Butler and the deal. When's that coming? Because it's been reported that it's in the works. Isn't it like today or tomorrow or
12
something?
at 12:01 a.m. Jimmy Butler will be making it rain more than any Heat player in history with a 4-year, $184 million extension that the NBA will count the final year of his contract that's being rolled over the option year for a total of $220 million over 5 years, $250 million for a player who turns 36 during this contract. It is agreed to. Of course, it can't be agreed to for those just listening. Those were air quotes I put my fingers up with. And it gets done today. They went all in. And think about the irony that you're talking about 5 years, actually 3 years, no, 5 years. 5 years after what you went through with Dwayne Wade and how you wouldn't go this far with him, they're doing it with Jimmy Butler. But yeah, Jimmy Butler's going to be a very, very richer man come about noon, 1 o'clock today.
All right, I'm not a fan of this deal whatsoever. You and I have talked about this. I would let him play out his final 2 years, and if he wants to become a petulant child, go ahead.
It would be final 1 year, Big O, because the last year is an option. So he'll be playing out this year, and then he could threaten this year to leave the whole time. And the one thing being a father yourself, and occasionally we deal with petulant children. We've seen Jimmy Butler in Chicago with Fred Hoiberg. Pretty darn ugly. Just ask Rajon Rondo. We've seen Jimmy Butler petulant in Minnesota. The practice, the watch, the Rachel Nichols interview, Karl Anthony Towns. And we've seen him when it hasn't worked and gone south with Brent Brown and what went wrong there in Philadelphia. So I think if you went into a lame duck year with Jimmy Butler, you might lose him this year also. And then where are you next year when you have the massive contract for Kyle Lowry, the massive contract for Bam Adebayo, and you're also giving Duncan Robinson $19 million? Let's face it, this roster right now, okay? Take away Jimmy Butler for the moment. We'll just go through this exercise. Humor me here. So now you have a starting lineup of Bam Adebayo, PJ Tucker, Duncan Robinson, Kyle Lowry, and Tyler Hero. Not so sure you avoid the play-in game with that roster.
I know. Yeah.
So sometimes you have to do what you might not want to do. And part two of this, Big O, is this. We have seen the most awful list of contracts get traded anyway. We've seen John Wall. We've seen Russell Westbrook. We saw Chris Paul when he was not looked at as a value contract.
Brian Grant and Eddie Jones. He was able to unload those, and we thought he would never.
So you know what? You worry about the future. You live in the moment. And I know you and I, we mentioned this in our Acura Pembroke Pines report on Tuesday also. God bless Pat Riley for living in the moment, for never telling Heat fan, except for the Beasley year, to wait till next year. He's living in the moment. Please take notice, Derek Jeter and Don Mattingly.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Oh, God, that was great. That was fantastic. Now, on the flip side of it, does this send out good messages, too, for the team in a way? Because they kind of effed up the whole Dwayne Wade thing. And then this is kind of like the make good in a way, like, no, we do take care of our people. So does this send a good vibe to other free agents and to other agents around the league, what they're doing with Jimmy?
Well, this sends a good vibe every other week when the paycheck arrives. Bam Adebayo, you got paid. Kyle Lowry, you got paid. Duncan Robinson, you got paid. Jimmy Butler, you got paid. Tyler Hero, you can get paid. The message comes with all them zeros, with at least 6 of them following the annual tax statement of earnings, and probably 7 for most of these guys also. So that's where the statement comes. The statement comes, if you buy in, if you do it the Heat way, if you're willing to play in this system for this team, you will get paid. Those guys have got to produce. Even Duncan Robinson said it on his podcast. Yes, the expectations rise, and he knows that. You sign that agreement. You get that check. You're darn well betting that Duncan Robinson better be a closer for me and better learn how to defend in those moments, because at $18, $19, $20, $21 million a year, I can't afford to have him sitting on the bench when I'm closing games.
He is fantastic. You can catch him 3 times a week here, twice with the Acura Pembroke Pines Miami Heat reports, Tuesdays and Fridays. And then on Wednesdays from 10 to 11, 1 hour of hardcore Heat and NBA talk as he and Clay Ferraro host the Pallet Rack City Inside the Paint show from 10 to 11. All of it is podcasted. Make sure you subscribe to Big O Radio Show so you can catch all of the different segments all throughout the week right here. Ira, have a fantastic weekend, my friend. Enjoy the USA basketball and enjoy your weekends.
And thanks for paying me the Duncan Robinson money. Thanks, Big O.
You know it, baby. There you go. Ira getting paid. That's what it's all about, baby. Getting paid. And I love that, man. Ira Winderman, good stuff there.